Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart as well as other macro crypto indicators. Let's start off with fear and greed. And today, Bitcoin and crypto fear and greed is getting into the highest territory it's been in a long time. So do be extra cautious, especially if you're new to the crypto world or crypto investing, trading, trade vesting. You are getting in at a very rich time. It's not to say that it can't go up more, but if you haven't been dollar cost averaging in up until this point, do know the best you can hope for is maybe based off an educated gamble. And I do emphasize that second word there. So as you can see, we have been high up in greed and now extreme greed for some time. When we zoom out over the last year, what do you notice? We are as high as we've ever been this year as far as fear and greed. And you can see when Bitcoin was making that original new all-time high in March at around 74,000, we also got to the 90 mark. What I'm looking to see here is whether we are just going to spike up and then slowly come back down like before, or if we are going to accumulate up into extreme greed. And the reason I say that is we talked about this area right here in March as a mid-cycle top. So that was the top right here, which happened right before the halving. Okay, great. But I also referenced prior cycles before how when we had a mid-cycle top and it spiked, we did come back down, and we can see that reflected last time in 2019. We had that mid-cycle top, slowly came down, had the landing at the time that we had the COVID crash. Okay, great. Going back over to fear and greed. What else do we notice though? The one time that greed stayed up here and accumulated, if you will, we had the alt season and all-time high for the time be right here in March, April, May. That's when altcoins, Bitcoin miners were taking off. And we can see that reflected in the rainbow chart right here. So when Bitcoin was getting past this all-time high and going into alt season, you can actually see what happened with fear and greed is that the greed, it was accumulating. That was late December, getting those new all-time highs, and then eventually going down. So I'm looking to see, are we just spiking up here for a few weeks, or are we going to stay here for a month or two? You can see that when it got up into this area, it was about the middle of November, excuse me, until January. So if we stay high up into an extreme greed area, I think that could definitely favor one of these types of areas where we just keep pumping and possibly get alt season earlier than what many people expect. If that's the case, you need to keep this in the back of your mind, and this is the Bitcoin dominance cycle. The important thing to know is that when Bitcoin dominance is going up, and for any people new to crypto, what this means is when a certain percent of money overall in crypto is in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin dominance, that's how much Bitcoin is dominating the crypto market, if you will, when that's going up, in these days it's around 60%. It tends to be bearish for many of the altcoins, not all of them, but for most of them. But when Bitcoin dominance is really tanking, and we'll take a look at that at the charts and show you what happens, altcoins can explode. That's when people have gotten rich overnight, where their money does a 5x, 10x, 20x, if not more. But I will caution you on that. There are coins that do 20x or more, but you have to be in them from the cycle lows. And going back to the rainbow chart, you would have to be in it for this cycle, since these times back in here. And for this cycle, you would have to be accumulating in these areas, okay? And if not, if you're just getting into it, don't expect to see those 20x returns. Maybe it's a 3x to a 5x. Not that that's bad, but do set your price targets and sort of temper your expectations, if you will, because yes, people are going to be talking about that, and there might be a meme coin here or there, something that pops off. One of the hardest battles in crypto is finding the altcoins that do explode like that. It's not an exact science. What I do look for myself, what I've noticed from the last couple of cycles, is I tend to look at some of the medium large cap coins. So cryptos that are around this number 10 to the 100 range. I do my homework. I have altcoins that I choose. Are there a couple below the 100 range? Sure. I look at Bitcoin mining stocks and subscribe because I do videos on that every week. But I look at some of these, and again, I temper my expectations. Right here, you want to take a notice with market cap, and just really quick. So if we're talking about something like Floki, let me go up to Pepe because I've been seeing this nonsense on Twitter, X, and it really needs to stop. So Pepe has a market cap at around 8.5 billion. You see that. Market cap is a real thing. You cannot ignore it. People are talking about Pepe getting to $1. If that happens, well, guys, you can see how many decimal places we go. That's like a 10,000x. If that's going to happen, then 8.5 billion is going to multiply times 10,000. And if that's true, that's going to be 80, 800, 8 trillion, 80 trillion, 800 trillion. Pepe's not going to $1, and it's not going to be worth 800 trillion, more than the entire global GDP. That's just unrealistic. If you're seeing that stuff, it's nonsense. When I take a look at some of these from the market cap where they are now to where they could go, I mean, you could reference something like Dogecoin from last time. Last cycle, Dogecoin got somewhere, I want to say is 80 to 100 billion. Okay. Well, if any of these go 80 to 100, that could be an 8x to a 10x. Great. And that's at best. For some of these altcoins to get above that $100 billion mark and really stay there, be the very, very top altcoins, which are probably going to be things like Solana. We already know Ethereum's probably, going to be worth $1 trillion, maybe do a 3x or something. But for these other ones to get above that 100 billion mark to 200 billion, that's very rare. I'm not counting on that because there's so few altcoins that do. I'm looking at some of these to maybe get to 50 billion. Realistically, that's what some of the mining stocks might be able to do at best. So set your price targets accordingly. As far as the alt season index, you guys can see here, we are making a higher low. So some altcoins still might not be worth, or still might have that deep value. And you can see if we scroll down lower, there are altcoins that have already exploded. You can see Doge, that was their SUI, Pepe, WIF, Bonk, more of the meme coins. Usually when it's the utility altcoins that run, things like Chainlink, XRP, others, that's usually closer to the end of the bull run or the altcoin cycle, and that's what happened last time. Taking a look at the Bitcoin rainbow chart, you can see we are back up into the yellow zone, which is where Bitcoin was before when it made that local top. All right, great. So got up to the yellow zone, came down, had the halving, came down 2.5 color zones, and now it's up here. All right, so the yellow zone, if we just go out to, let's say, January. Okay, January, let's say the beginning, January 7th. If we stay in that yellow zone, then Bitcoin could be in that range of 86 to 114K. If it got below that zone, you can see there that's about 66 to 86,000 in that green box. And in the orange box, we have the 113 to 145. So where am I looking for possible corrections or a top? Well, you guys can see that in the rainbow chart that when we do get extended, at least in the earlier cycles, we were in this max bubble territory or even just above it. But in 2017, only got up to max bubble territory. 2021, 4 years later, it got into this reddish orange zone. And so just going down a zone each time, here was above, here was the max bubble, here was the second one. I would be kind of looking for this orange zone in the future sometime during 2025 if we keep having these 4-year cycle tops. So you can see the top was later 2013, the top was later 2017, and the very top was later 21. Okay, alt season was earlier though, so do keep that in mind. We've also seen the inverse true in the halvings. Each halving, we go up a color zone. We were in the blue, we were in the teal, we were in the turquoise, if you will, and then we were in the green. So we're going up each halving, and we are going down each top. So I am really looking at this orange zone conservatively speaking. Let's say we have a top in April. You see that 124 to 160K right there in orange. Let's say we get it later on in November. Okay, then the orange box is around 186 to 240K, right? So we're going to see what's going to happen if we are going to have another 4-year cycle. The rainbow chart is helping just find us a range. Now, as we go to the technical analysis, we have a couple things to look at here. One is that Bitcoin, it was in this descending channel. People are calling it a bull flag. People have also said, well, this is kind of like a not head and shoulders, a cup and handle. So we have the cup, and then, there's your handle, and then boom, things usually take off from cup and handles. I don't know if it's exactly a cup or handle, to be honest. And guys, there's a lot of those patterns out there. You can take a look for the double tops, head and shoulders. You can educate yourself as much as you want on those. Sometimes we see those play out. Sometimes we don't. And I'll never forget, last cycle, people were talking a lot about head and shoulders, and it never happened. So we had the shoulder. People are like, okay, here's the head. And now we're going to get another shoulder. And instead, it's a sort of a Quasimodo shoulder for all the Hunchbacks and Notre Dame fans out there. Sorry for the dark humor. But anyways, it really didn't materialize. So what we did have was a double top. But again, I'm not going to get into the technicals and exactly what all the different fun shapes are going to do. On this channel, I like to focus on the most simple, easy to understand indicators and let you take from that what you will. I think if you're watching a channel and somebody's talking about Elliott wave analysis and you're getting this other perspective, okay, that's great. But I'm not going to base my strategy off someone else's use of whatever technical tools they're going to use unless I can replicate and use that myself. If I don't understand it, if I can't explain it in a way a 5-year-old can understand, if I can't use it, then I really don't care about it. So yes, there's a lot of great different types of analysis out there, but the ones I stick to, one of the simplest ones, trend line. Okay, great. You can draw a trend line, see where you're finding some patterns. All right. But again, patterns aren't everything. It's just one piece of the puzzle. Really, a lot of this to me is about psychology. As a market psychologist, again, we try to use the psychology of the market to our advantage. So if greed's high, then we need to be cautious and say, well, maybe it's not the best time to buy in everything. And if we stay greedy, maybe I'm going to take some profits from all this time I've been buying up when there was fear and less people in the market. So that's one way to look at it. Another simple way is just pay attention. Every week, whatever handful of stocks, cryptos you're in, just check them for a minute or two each week. That's it. And you'll know if it's at a deal or not. If we take a look at Bitcoin in the last year, is it within the range of the high or the low? Well, you know that answer. So frankly, I don't buy. I don't buy things at a premium all-time high price. I wait till they're at a discount. Well, Mr. Market Psychologist, that's you talking right now. How do I know it's at a discount? Well, one of the ways I look at finding discounts is by the moving averages, the 20, 50, 100, 200, and we also have our Fibonacci retracement. And so the Fibonacci retracement, I did not click the right thing. So make sure we click off. And the Fibonacci retracement shows, why is that being weird? Oh, it's on brush mode. Like, what the hell is going on right now? Let's delete that. And I did another brush right there. All right. This guy knows how to chart. The Fibonacci retracement is a tool that shows different percentages. Here we are. Let's put this on log scale. So when I draw from the, now I got to clean this up because I made a mess over my chart here. When I draw this Fibonacci retracement tool from the high to the low, you can go from the low to the high, and you put it on log scale. I'm on log. That's a good macro way to look at it. You see these different percentages come up. There's the 78.6%, 61.8%, that's half, right? The 0.5, the 3.2, and the 2.36. You see a lot of bouncing off these percentages, and you see a lot of bounces off the moving averages. The light red line's the 20, the gold one, that's a 50, 100, 200. Okay, great. When you draw those, you can see what percentage is offering more deeper value and these averages that move along with the price. So even though when Bitcoin made this all-time high price here, you'd say, well, the Fibonacci discounts start here, at the 786, the 618.5, and so on. And you can see, well, the discounts really begin at the 50-week moving average and so on. Well, we only hit the 50-week in the 786. And if you didn't buy there or dollar cost average in, I'd say, what are you doing? That should at least be the beginning of where you look to enter positions. Inversely, when we're going down and then coming back up, again, if you like something enough to buy it here, and I know a lot of people have bought it here, then you should love it buying it here, here, here. And there's other indicators you can use. There's buy-sell signal indicators that flash red or green, great. There's the stochastic RSI. I like when it flips positively. I'll just show you what those look like. Right now, they're very extended on the macro, so I'm not looking to buy at all right now. If anything, I might take a look at the RSI and see, is this move getting overextended? Are we seeing something like bearish divergence? That's where the strength lowers while the price is going higher. There is bearish divergence right now. We'll see where this is done peaking, but those are things I look for. I'm going to add on this. Actually, I won't. I'll add on a different one. Someone earlier was, last week, asked for me to, I'm glad I remember this, to talk about the pi cycle indicator. And so we're going to talk about that. So we're going to take off the moving averages. We're going to talk about the pi cycle, okay, in a moment. I'm going to let you wait just a moment. So we're going to just blank that for a little bit. I want us to look at something together. And right now you see this trend line. It's going up to this area, which is very close to where the trend line from the double top of 2021 goes. All right, great. We're almost there. That on the right, you can see that number is around 96,000. Awesome. When we take our fib off log scale, that's a good way to look for price targets. So you can do this for anything. Okay, draw from the prior high to low, take it off the log scale, and you can see this is when we're looking at price targets. The 1618 is at 101, 102K. Great. So all those converge about the time that we have this vertical green line. The average from a new all-time high, which is here, to the next peak from prior cycles is around 300 days. That puts us at the end of the year. So I've been really curious for a while, and for those of you who've been following along the channel, I've been talking about this. I said, okay, by the end of the year, we were in here at the time. I said, is Bitcoin going to be around 100K? Well, we're pretty dang close. We're closer to 100K than we were back here when we were at 60,000. It almost doesn't feel real that we just shot up 30K. I said, is it going to get here? And if so, then what's going to happen? Okay, like I said earlier in the video, if we stay high and greed, then maybe alt season and that all-time high, that first peak, is coming soon after. Maybe something by March, we'll get up further and we'll hit this 2618 number around 155K. And you can see that right here, the 2618 fib extension, 155K. All right, what is going on here? Sorry about that. I scrolled way too quick. So if we get up here and then we stay bullish and we get a 4-year altcoin cycle top from this point right here, that first double top, all right, great, 155K. And by the way, remember that orange box I told you about that I'm looking for? Let's go to March or April. Here we are. Look at the orange box. You see where 155K would fall? In that orange box. So if we do get an early top, I think that an early alt season could fall in line with that. And now maybe you're asking yourself, well, you talked about that Bitcoin dominance thing before. All right, for that to happen, guys, I have this vertical red line here. This is March. We would have to get down there very quick. Now, that's not impossible. That has happened before, where Bitcoin dominance in the span of the last 2 cycles, the first cycle, it was a month where it was unreal. The last cycle, it was about 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, I don't know if we're going to have an average of that where it's just going to be 5 weeks down, or if we went a month, 6 weeks, and now we're going to be like 2 months straight down. But you can see when we have that alt season, Bitcoin dominance just falls off a cliff. Now, I think it's my personal opinion that we are near the Bitcoin dominance top if we haven't topped already. I'm looking at 62%. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. Doesn't matter. What does matter is having a strategy. Predictions don't mean squat, but you have to have a strategy to use whether your prediction comes true or not. So what I'm talking out loud with you guys about right now is the way I look at it. It is, well, let's have multiple predictions. Why not? Where we could say, what are we going to do if we top by March? If that scenario comes true, I just talked to you guys about, where Bitcoin goes to 100K, then 155K, alt season, do we have a plan? Okay, part of your plan can be taking profits out of your altcoins or mining stocks as alt season is happening. And for the most part, that's the smart thing to do, because if you don't and you hold too long, many of the alts, after they pump, will fall off a cliff very fast. So do set your price targets, okay? That's the other part of my plan. Set a price target. For Chainlink, I have my own price targets. I have Chainlink. I'm not telling you what my price targets are per se, but I have my areas where I'll look to withdraw profits. And if it doesn't hit that, I have a backup plan. So make sure you have that this time around, because guys, I'm telling you, these altcoins, they don't stay up forever. I don't care what it is. You see here, Chainlink, it pumped into May and it got up to 53. And then later, it was down to 16. Pump back up to 34. Would you have sold there? Or maybe you thought it was going higher. Nope. Then it eventually fell off to 6. And that's what can happen in the span of a year, guys. So you definitely want to sell into the pump as the dominance is tanking, and set your price targets. All right, so Bitcoin dominance, that's scenario 1. Scenario 2, in my opinion, is something like this. It's more in line with the 4-year cycle. What do we see here? It is typical for the markets to have a post-election pump and then an inauguration dump, or where we at least go sideways. So in scenario 2, it's more of the 4-year cycle. And again, I don't know when alt season's coming. It's more of something maybe like this, okay? Or where alt season would be the second peak, or something like this, where let's say we get that 100K spike, a little post-inauguration dump, and then Q4 or sometime later 2025, I don't know when, no one does, okay? Maybe we spike up to here, come back down, okay, for half a year, and then boom, take off, all right? And by the way, these are just some other averages. I can give you however many predictions you want based off time or whatever. The average amount of time from the very bottom of each cycle to the peak is 850 days. That's March. Okay, so that goes in line with scenario 1. But scenario 2, if you take the average from each halving, that puts us closer to, well, this is only in August. But again, that's factoring every cycle. And that would be more Q3, Q4, all right? So I don't know what's going to happen, but part of my plan is it involves price targets and it involves Bitcoin dominance. Okay, scenario 2 would be something like this, where we form a base and go down. And I'm leaning towards scenario 2 because last 2 times after dominance peaked, formed a base. Right here, look at that day, August 2020, September 2020. That was go time, because January 21, that was the very beginning of just when alts took off, okay? Formed a base here, July 2017, okay? Formed a base, came up to, that's like early mid-December, and then boom, fell off. I remember this time. That was peak crypto euphoria. It was great. So have that in the back of your mind, okay? We are going to get, God, I got so sidetracked. I am going to get to the Pi cycle thing here pretty soon. Talked about this. I'm just going to keep this brief. Whenever we hit this trend line, that tends to be at local tops, and we are hitting that trend line right now. Now in 2021, you can see we hit that trend line and we stayed there for a while. So this is like start of February till May, February, March, April, May. So 4 months. Might we be at this trend line for 4 months? If we start staying at this trend line for another couple of weeks, we might be in that early top scenario if we stay on the trend line. If we start bouncing away from it, then probably not. And maybe, this is where moving averages might come in handy. Maybe on the, I guess on the, this on the weekly, I'm just saying out loud here, came down to the 200, but really when it was closing above, not just a wick, but a close above the 100, then it was pretty much turning around. Maybe the daily will give us a better look here if we go back. Anything there gets under the moving averages. Yeah, I guess when it gets above the when it was above the 200, that was for sure it. So, a couple ways to look at it there, but you definitely want to stay under the moving averages and on the weekly, more of the macro one. All right, great. But just another thing to keep in the back of your mind. All right, let's go to Bitcoin. That chart looked like a freaking mess. Let's put this on lock. Some of you have asked about the pi cycle indicator. It has been great at calling tops and bottoms since the beginning. All right, called both tops and then the bottom. All right, awesome. Move a cycle forward. Okay, they called the top in 2017, called the bottom. All right, great. Let's go to 2021. Got pretty close to calling the top. The true top was here. Now this was the alt season top, but it was about 4,000 or 5,000 less. Did not call the exact top. As you can see, the moving average, that white line came up higher. But you see how it signals it? It has to get above this white line. The mid-cycle tops, it gets to the white line and comes down. Just like this time. Got to the mid-cycle top, came down. So if we start getting above that white line, be prepared. And it did call the bottom until we had that black swan event at the bottom with FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, all that. So, guys, my point's this. This signal is going to not be as good calling the future tops and bottoms because what do we have here? We have what's called logarithmic regression. Log scale factors of 10 regression. Instead of spiking up as fast, we're starting to go sideways. Okay, diminished returns. That doesn't mean you can't make great returns. They're just diminishing, becoming less, right? So if we go over here, we see where the moving average is. Well, what's above it? We have the 2618 at 155K. Would we get a pi cycle top signal if we got there? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be enough strength. Now, if it got higher than that, let's say to the 3618 at 210K, sure, I could see that. That seems reasonable. But I don't know if we're going to get to that. Sorry. I'm using one of those finger mouse pads, scroll way too quick. I don't know if we're going to get to these levels again, guys, because the 3618 and the 4236 is the area that Bitcoin got to last cycle. In each cycle, the peak of the price hits a lower fib extension. So if we hit here last time, in each cycle, the fib extension's lower. That's why I'm eyeing something more conservative, which is also in the orange box, as we talked about, okay? Now, let's say, that's scenario one, we top by March. Maybe it doesn't signal. But in scenario two, if it hits up here, comes down, the moving average would kind of come down a little bit, or sideways at least. And then, we could go up in the Q4. Back to the rainbow chart, maybe you guys are thinking, well, where is the orange box in August and quarter four? Well, August, that orange box, 137 to 176K. And again, it doesn't have to be right on 155K. It can go above or below by 10K. That's fine. That still fits. And as far as Q4, somewhere like November, December, you see 150K. Again, we're talking the orange box. Did I do the wrong one? Oh, I was doing the light orange. I'm an idiot. Light, or we're doing the dark orange. My brain is not braining. All right, dark orange, third one down. Mr. Market Psychologist, 175 to 225K. Okay, that's above that 2618. That's where it's like, if we get that 4-year cycle, later on next year, 190 to 240K. Again, if we get there to those prices, we are getting towards the 3618 and the 4236. Are we going to get there again? I have my doubts. And again, the reason I have my doubts, let's just take this away. The reason I have my doubts is because that was the strength of the move last cycle. You guys can see this right here. The 3618 to the 4236. Can I zoom in on that for you a little bit? All right, you see that right there. That's where the top was. I have to go auto. All right, that's as good as I can maybe make it with. Yeah, this is what happens every time when I scroll in. So you can see there, 60 to 70. Okay, sorry, my My scrolling's not working the best here. Okay. But that's the strength we got to last time. And again, if we go to prior cycles, the fib extensions, they weaken each consecutive cycle. I mean, you guys can see that plainly. You got way above it. And the cycle before, obviously, okay? Again, that's what we see in this rainbow chart, that we go up quicker earlier on and then go sideways. That's what the fibs also show us too, the Fibonacci retracements. So, saying all this out loud, I can make an argument for a bunch of things, a bunch of different predictions. My point is to just be ready for it. Some ways saying this out loud, I'm like, well, maybe it makes more sense that we could have alt season by March, and we might get a 4-year cycle from this time around. All right? Maybe we get a 4-year cycle from here. 1,430 days. Maybe that's what happens. We get a 4-year cycle from the first peak. An alt season, 4 years from the first alt season in 2021. Right? If that happens, Bitcoin dominance is going to do something a little different than it has before. It's not going to form a base. It's just going to fall off a cliff right away. It's just going to peak soon, go sideways and down. Okay? It's not going to form a base. It's just going to go yoink. Go up to the peak, yoink. We had all this happen last time. And if that's true, there's more time to play out. So be ready for either scenario. And if it does, I am so sick of looking at my horrible drawing. If Bitcoin dominance does do something like this, that's okay. Woo. So bad. That's okay. Whatever it's going to do, what we are looking for is somewhere down here in the low 40s%. You see, first time got down to 35%. Second time 40. Okay, we can draw a horizontal trend line here because that's where the most bases line up, or we can draw an ascending one. Regardless, we are looking at mid to low 40s. And if your price target's getting hit and dominance is down here, good time to take profits on alts and miners. Be ready for that now, because that euphoria, even though greed is high right now, it's extremely greedy right now. You're probably hearing friends, family talk about crypto who never talk about crypto. If we are topping by March or sometime early next year, it is going to be euphoric, and they are going to be buying in at the top. Don't be one of those people. I already showed you ways you can look for discounts that are easy for anyone to do, but do be cautious. Anyways, that's all I got for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe if you want to hear more content. I go into the stock market as well. I talk about the macro conditions and how stocks affect crypto. I also talk about the Mag 7 stocks, Bitcoin mining stocks. I'll probably put a video out about that tomorrow, Wednesday. And I talk about other altcoins available on Robinhood, Coinbase, Ethereum, all that stuff too. So thanks for watching. Take care.